Hi, I'm Joe Naglowski, OAC's President and CEO. On today's episode of Fresh Perspectives, we will talk with the OAC members who met with and advised the producers and actors on the motion picture The Whale, starring Brendan Fraser, directed by Darren Aronofsky, and based on a play by Sam Hunter. As we discuss the movie, we'll do our best to avoid any spoilers for those of you who haven't yet seen the movie. With that being said, we do want to start off with a warning. The movie may be difficult for those living with obesity, and especially so for people living with binge eating disorder, as there are binge episodes depicted. Please take this trigger warning seriously. Joining me today are a great group of amazing volunteers, including Patty Neese, Shelley Vicari, Liz Paul, Jason Kranicki, and Ian Patton. Patty, let's start with you. Why did the OAC participate in The Whale, and what factors went into the decision to do so?
You know, it was kind of odd. Somebody comes to you with a play titled The Whale, wanting your help. And we thought, well, that's not a very good title if you're talking about people with obesity, because a lot of us, including me, have been called whales during our lifetimes. But we read the play, Sam Hunter's play, and we realized that there was a lot to this story. We also had discussions with people involved in the making of the film, and it was clear they were taking obesity seriously. This wasn't an issue where the type of film where they were going to make fun of people with obesity, which is what we typically see, people with obesity being the butt of jokes in media. They were much more serious about an accurate portrayal of what it's like to live with severe obesity in particular. And we decided we'd take a chance and try and give them the background they needed to make a film that was realistic to someone's life.
Thanks for that, Patty. So let's jump into some specifics now. Let's talk about how OAC specifically advised Brendan and the producers. Liz, why don't we start with you? How did you participate, and what kind of advice did you give?
So we had an opportunity a couple years ago over Zoom to meet with Brendan Fraser and Darren Aronofsky and the production team, and really answer their questions about what it's like to live with obesity. What does your average life look like? How do I live? What does my relationship with food look like? What interactions do I have with people? How do I feel stigmatized in society? And what I noticed most was how deeply they listened and cared about our stories. That it was not just checking a box that they, did research into what a character may be like, but that they were really trying to understand what it is to live with obesity.
Thanks for that, Liz. And Jason, I know you had a similar conversation with Brendan and the team at A24, so tell me about what you talked about.
Just about my story living with obesity, the struggles of day-to-day living, and meeting with Brendan, it was compassionate. He wasn't there just to make a movie, he was here to listen, and after I met with him, he was in tears with me, with my story, and it was an honor to meet with him because he actually cares about people living with obesity.
Thanks for that, Jason. And that's very evident if any of you have watched any media interviews with Brendan, how passionate he is about this cause now and actually depicting people in a proper way. Ian, talk about your conversations with Brendan.
Yeah, like the others, I shared my own personal lived experience a little bit, answered questions from both Brendan and Darren about living with obesity in the day-to-day and those sorts of things. And like you said, it was something that has become evident. I was actually at one of the film premiere festivals here in Toronto, and you could see when they did the Q&A afterwards, both of them, the way they spoke about obesity, they clearly took something away from the experience of working with the OAC and hearing these stories, which was really interesting. And then, beyond that, I had a separate call with the props department from the movie, and they were asking questions about what might be in this individual's apartment and the sort of things that they would have around them in the environment. So I thought it was really interesting. They did a really good job of trying to understand and take it seriously.
Thanks for that, Ian. And Shelley, I know you advised Brendan, but also did some work with the props group and other parts of the production team. So why don't you share a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, I did do some of that as well. I think that the most important, obviously, was getting our stories out there and having them hear from people with the lived experience. But one of the things that I thought was pretty impactful was we were able to share our stories with the marketing department, the PR department, some of the groups that are involved in the distributing of the film. And you're talking about 150 or so folks that we were able to share our experiences with. And I think we opened their eyes to the historical depictions of obesity, how those have caused harm in the past. And we really opened their eyes. I think some of them, they were interns. They'll take that and perhaps make some impactful changes in their work in the future. And I'm hopeful for that.
Thanks for that, Shelley. So now let's shift to the film itself. And again, let's do our best to avoid some spoilers if possible. But Patty, can you share how you felt after seeing it?
For the first time, almost the first time, I felt like parts of my life were actually portrayed on screen. So much of the Charlie character, which is Brendan Fraser's character, rang true to me. So many of his experiences, so many things he did, feeling worthless because of his weight, self-deprecating humor, which I think we have all resorted to at one time or another, those sorts of things. It really hit home for me. And in a lot of ways, it made me feel less alone, that I am not alone in these feelings or in this situation or this journey.
Thanks for sharing that, Patty. Shelley, your feelings.
I actually got to screen it alone in a theater in my town many months before it was released, and that alone was kind of an experience, but I cried. It brought up so many emotions. There's one scene in particular, I won't spoil it too much, but Charlie's being called names, and they were some names that I've been called in the past. And so I felt those deeply when I was watching it. It is a film that's definitely going to stir emotions, good and negative. And I think it's going to start some conversations that need to happen. Charlie has some health issues he doesn't seek care for. I think those of us who are living in larger bodies understand why and understand what he might be faced with if he did. And I hope the greater public starts having some conversations that need to be had after they watch the movie.
Thanks for that, Shelley. And Ian, I'm curious to your feelings as well, but I also know that you were so moved you wrote a letter to Brendan Fraser that he has actually referenced in interviews. I don't know if you've seen that, but I have seen those references. So can you share a little bit about how you felt and what you wrote to Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, like Patty and Shelley, it was something where maybe the first time in a movie where I've seen a character that I connected with or I could see myself in or aspects of myself in. And so I was very, very moved by that. I thought it was the first time that I've seen a human portrayal of an individual in a larger body. So someone who's got lots going on, but they're human. They're not that joke. And I was moved. There was moments in the movie that took my breath away, actually, and I was very emotional with a lot of the movie. And so afterwards, I did send a letter to Brendan, and there's a couple things I mentioned that bit about that it was the first time I had seen something like that, but I also mentioned that someone out there is going to watch this movie and they are going to connect with Charlie as the character, and they're going to see something themselves in that character, and maybe that has a little bit of an impact on them, and it could happen in a couple ways. Maybe they decide to reach out and get some help or investigate some things. There might be something there that clicks with someone, and it might not be a whole lot of people, but it might be someone, and that's important. And then the other part of it was the other people in the audience that I was in there, I recognized that there wasn't a lot of people that were living with obesity, or visually, you scan the room and these people might not know what it was like, and they all fell in love with this character, and there was a great deal of love and admiration for Charlie. And so I envisioned them coming out of that theater and walking down the street, and maybe they see someone across the street, and instead of having the thoughts that they might have had previously about maybe making a joke or a comment or something like that, or judging someone, maybe they have a little bit of empathy. And if that happens to just a few people, this is a very impactful movie. So I was very, very moved by it.
Beautifully said, Ian. And it is, I think, all of our hope that the movie generates more empathy and compassion for people living with obesity. So Jason, I know you got to do something very cool. You had the great honor of actually attending the premiere in New York City. You got to be a celebrity for a day. So what was that like, and how did the audience react to the picture? So
It was one of a lifetime experience. There was not a dry eye in the theater. Standing ovation. I actually saw Darren at the after party, and basically said, "Thank you for doing this movie justice." And he remembered my story, and I'll tell you, it was one of a lifetime, seeing everybody on stage, everybody clapping. And like I said before, there was not a dry, and I hope this movie will have the conversation that it should be, that obesity is a disease.
Thanks for that, Jason. And I do want to acknowledge that the production company A24 made it really possible for many of us here to see the movie in advance and to get to attend the premiere. So I want to thank them for doing that. They really did take this issue seriously. So Liz, a question for you as we come close to the end of this panel. Brendan Fraser, who plays obviously the main character Charlie, and Sam Hunter, who wrote The Whale, have been quite vocal in their advocacy for people living with obesity since this film has been released. What stands out to you in their activities?
A few things stand out. One of the things that's most notable to me is Brendan Fraser's adoption of people first language. That he is out there talking about people living with obesity, that we are not obese people, that we are not fat people, that we are actually people living with the disease of obesity. That shift in media, in mass media, with all the attention he's getting, is a huge thing, and so impactful for people to start making that switch and to start hearing that we are people first. And in tandem with the movie and seeing Charlie's character as someone who has the capacity for love and loves others is just so powerful. That and the fact that he talks about it in all of his media, that he doesn't shy away from this difficult topic. You could just talk about the method, how he got into the character or anything, but no, he still talks about the issues of people living with obesity, and he brings it into all of his media work, and that is going to really destigmatize things for people living with obesity. And the work that he's done in the last 2 months since the movie's come out has probably brought things from a media perspective further than things have gone in a long time.
Thanks for that, Liz. And I think another thing that stood out to me is Sam Hunter, the playwright, and his bravery in sharing his own experience living with obesity. It's not easy. I know many of us here on this platform today, we're quite comfortable sharing our lived experience, but it's not easy for the average member of the public to do so, even if you are a well-known award-winning playwright, and he's done so quite bravely. So I do very much appreciate the work he's done. I also will say the language thing and the changing of the, using person first language is something that not only Brendan is committed to, but also the production company is. And we just had an example this past week where Shelley actually sent me a reference online that had used some non-person first language. And we asked the production company, hey, can you help get this changed? Because it would probably taken us, weeks or months to get changed. And they managed to get that changed in a day. And so we're very appreciative of their commitment to using the appropriate language. So Patty, our activities around the movie didn't stop when production was completed. Can you share some of the work we've done since the movie's been released?
Sure. And Shelley's covered a little bit of it. We've continued to work with the production company. And as you just said, we've spotted over the time the movie has been released several issues with coverage of it that we brought to A24's attention, and they've done a great job in having media outlets correct inaccuracies. We continue to work with them too on things like press notes and different items that they would put out normally as part of the production of a film. It's been a real learning experience, I think, for a lot of us, not ever having done this, learning about how much is behind the release of a movie. Things like reviewing trailers and that sort of thing. So we've appreciated throughout how they have sought our views, actively sought our views, because they want to maintain the accuracy and authenticity of what they're doing. And we're sort of on standby. Some days there were days we'd get several different things going back and forth. But really appreciate their dedication to getting it right.
Well said, Patty. And I do want to end by thanking all of you for your advocacy and activities around The Whale, and everyone else who participated in it as well. I know it is a better movie because you participated. And a special thanks to Brendan Fraser and Sam Hunter, who have become true advocates for people living with obesity. I want to thank the entire A24 production team for their support, and Dr. Rachel Goldman, who made the original connections between the producers of The Whale and OAC. To learn more about OAC's activities around The Whale, visit www.obesityaction.org/the-whale. And look forward very soon to an interview with some of us and Brendan Fraser that will be happening later this week, and we hope to release soon. So I hope all of you enjoyed this special edition of OAC Fresh Perspectives. Have a great day.